35 years, that's how long a Charlotte murder case went unsolved. Well, now Charlotte-Mecklenburg police say they know who did it. Thanks for joining us live at 5 on WBTV. I'm John Carter.
And I'm Siobhan Bryan. Police arrested 63-year-old Marion Gables today. He's accused of killing Kim Thomas back in 1990.
WBTV's Daryl Green joins us now live from West Charlotte. And Daryl, investigators told you today new technology used on DNA samples they took all those years ago.
John, one of the things that held investigators back for more than 3 decades with this case was the inability to separate DNA samples from individuals found at the crime scene. But now, thanks to advances in technology, Charlotte-Mecklenburg police say they're confident they've solved this crime. 31-year-old Kim Thomas was found handcuffed with her throat slashed at her home in July of 1990. It was a horrific crime scene that haunted detectives and really Charlotte for years. Thomas's husband was originally implicated in the murder, but a lack of evidence forced detectives to clear his name. But that same lack of clear evidence could not point to a killer. That is, until now.
Our previous technology, there were times when it was difficult to discern exactly what the profiles were that were in this mixture. In this instance, newer technology that we've obtained allowed the lab to reevaluate evidence that was previously collected and was able to verify more clearly the profiles associated with those samples, which directly linked Mr. Gales to the incident location and to the victim.
Now, Gales only recently got out of prison after serving a term for killing another woman in 2008, where he copped to a manslaughter plea for that charge. Now, in our previous reporting, Thomas's husband, Dr. Ed Friedland, his attorney has repeatedly said that his client was not guilty and should be cleared because of that DNA evidence. We'll hear from him coming up tonight at 6 from some of our previous reporting through the years in this 35-year-old cold case. Live in Charlotte tonight, Daryl Green, WBTV, on your side.
We'll see you at